Hey, good morning. We're here with the Small Boat Restoration, our little hobby adventure. Today we're working on the tow trailer for our 1971 O'Day Day Sailor named Cyan. We came out and wanted to repair a trailer guide post light, which I had knocked off with another, broken the top part of it off. So we hooked up the tow vehicle to check the light and make sure that the light was still working, and then it was just a matter of repairing the PVC. And what we had on hand today was some flex tape. So crack went around here and around to the back, so we just flex taped it back on, and that's going to be about as solid as it gets. We'll keep an eye on it. If it seems like it's coming loose again, we'll scrape the tape and we'll put on back on, use some PVC cement to get it back. But we're happy that the light still worked, so we didn't have to replace that. Pretty sturdy, fell to the ground, didn't break the light itself or the LED segments. I don't know that I could say the same for incandescent bulbs. While we were walking around, we use the Marine Corps taught us aviation electronics technician. Back in the day, I was on F4N Phantoms, and we worked on a component they called the 18-inch rule. Once you're done working on one component, you'd check the system. You'd look around in the general area to see if there's anything else that needed attention. So since we were checking lights, we went ahead and checked all the lights, found out that this little tail light here was not working. So we're like, man, that's LED. We just got those replaced, but it shouldn't have any problems. We like the LED lights. The component is sealed up, so you're not worried about getting water in there like you did with the systems that had the incandescent bulbs. And just looking around to see what might be wrong, we found that this little green wire, the butt connector, had become disconnected on one side. So it was on there like this, so it's still connected to the light, but the part going to the trailer had come loose. I'm not sure why. It could have been corrosion. It may have just corroded apart, or it could have been that this butt connector might be just a little bit big for the gauge of wire that they're using. So combination of factors. Anyway, it was loose. So I just kind of stuck it back in and saw that the light was working, and then it's a matter of replacing the butt connectors. So I cut this green wire, cut both ends clean. Then I took my little kit that you can buy at just about any hardware store, wire repair kit. Cut it clean with the wire cutter, and then you go down and find your gauge. And I believe I was using 2022 lately for stranded, and that means where the wires are all twisted together versus just like a solid copper wire. I cut it. You clip down on the wire about, I'd say 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, and these little teeth grab the insulation around the wire, and when you pull it, it strips that insulation off, gives you a nice clean cut. And then you can take your properly sized butt connector, slide it onto the end of the stripped wire, and then you take your the crimper end of this tool and you crimp down on that connector to smash it. It's probably very technical, a very fine precision operation. You smash it down, and I do it a couple of times on each end of the wire, so that when I'm done I have 4 crimps on each butt connector. When that's done, I threw on this it's kind of a rubbery we call it butyl, but it's a stretchy tape, that kind of silicone that sticks to itself as you wrap it. And I start connectors right here, I'll start away from it a little bit and then just wrap it, come to the end. It's not waterproof, but to help keep from getting water in there, I'll add a little zip tie. What we did back in the Marine Corps was we had little pieces of line, and we would tie some hitches on there to try to secure that. And this just helps to keep the protective covering from coming loose, keeps some moisture out. You know, the airplane obviously wasn't going into the water like this trailer might be if you launch. But this is mostly to just keep road spray coming off of the tire from getting on there, getting inside the connector, because the connectors before didn't have any, they have no protection on them. And I don't know if you could see over on the other side, maybe not, just below that bracket, there's a couple of red butt connectors on there. I'll probably wander over there in a minute and go ahead and put some wrap on those too. So like I say, this is primarily for this wrap and these zip ties for going down the road with spray that's coming off the tires. Water is going to get in here if you put it underwater after a time or two at the ramp, and there's going to be better ways to permanent wire, or you can, one way would be to solder and then a heat shrink wrap over it, or there's also some marine grade connectors that I'm going to do a little more research on. You know, do you need that for your trailer lighting system? I'm not exactly sure, you know, how much you overbuild it or overfix it, because what we found is most of this wiring, by the time something goes, it's usually something with the wiring. In the old days, it was the incandescent bulb in here, and the housings would get corroded. It's just easier just to take this whole housing off and put on a new one. The next thing that usually went was wiring, because it's running, you know, 18, 20 feet up through the trailer, so it's got a lot of points where it might touch metal, insulation might wear through. It's just thin wire to start with. It was never the highest grade, and nowadays where they source some of this stuff from, it's even less of a higher grade, so lower grade. So, and then usually third problem, and usually the primary problem we'd find with trailer lightings were this white wire, which is your grounds. So somewhere back here, a ground would be disconnected if it's just one light that's not working, or if the entire system's not working. It's, in most cases, it's usually a ground up by the hitch somewhere. So this trailer, it's grounded to the trailer frame itself. This is not even hooked up to the car. There's some other systems where the ground comes from a different source, so you look for that. So you have parking lights. I don't have those turned on right now. Your dim lights, and then on the back you've got your dim, and then for your brake or your hazard. So all I do now is I just turn the flashers on to see that I'm at least getting the highs and the brake lights. What I'll probably start doing is turning on the dims and the flashers, so I can make sure my marker lamps are working, my dims, and then my flashers and turn signals and brakes. So let me back up to this little thing right here. What I'll do next is you wrap each one of these separately. You don't want to wrap both connectors together, because if a stray wire pops out somewhere, it may interfere with the current flow that's going to the other either parking lamp or a turn. And they're color coded. The box will tell you which, green goes to the right and yellow goes to the left, or however that particular wire kit's set up. So I'll zip tie these together, because the other thing that'll kill these wires, other than moisture, is vibration going down the road. So in a supersonic jet, there was never be anything like this just kind of hanging out loose in the breeze. It would always be secured to some other component with little clamps or bushings or whatever, and tied along neat. Every few inches it'd be secure. So we're going to secure these to keep them from flapping around. And another thing we did was we put a little bit of that rubber tape wrap. We pulled this a little bit, wrapped where we see where it's going through this trailer frame, and then I put a zip tie on either side, so that kind of holds. The first thing that's going to wear here is going to be the rubber tape, and then it'll get to insulation, and then it'll get to wire. By then, this wire has probably already corroded itself internally, just because from the day they made it, it started corroding. And that'll be time to just replace all the wires, because once you start having a problem in one section of wire like that, you can fix it, but it's most likely going to just keep migrating through the rest of the system. So that's what we're doing on these lights. We've got the cheapo nuts and washers that came with it. Most likely when it comes time to have to replace this assembly, you'll have to get a reciprocating saw or a grinder and just cut that off. Usually it's so corroded that if you can get this to turn, what's going to happen, it's going to turn inside this plastic housing and waller, I use the official term, waller it out. And you don't want to then you're trying to cut it. If you use a reciprocating saw and this part's loose inside it, it might just rotate back and forth and make you angry while you're trying to cut it. So you might as well just cut your losses up front and just cut those off to start with. One little tip for folks that continue to use incandescent or don't like dunking any kind of trailer light at the ramp. What we've done in the past, in fact, this trailer, let's see, does it still have them? Nope. Yep. Oh yeah, it does have them. We haven't used them in a while, but on the inside we've had these started off as nice galvanized bolts about 15 years ago. They need a little attention, and on the inside, instead of a regular nut, we put a wing nut, because we weren't going far distances. We weren't doing interstate boating. So when we'd get to the ramp, we'd just take a couple of wing nuts off, pop the assembly off, and then we had the wires connected. So I'm going to pan down here with these this style connector. So we had the trailer wire coming in and then the wire going to the light there. So at the ramp, you could just unplug 4 wires and undo 4 wing nuts and then dunk your trailer to your heart's content, not worrying about messing up your light assembly. With the power boat, it's a bigger issue, because you get to the ramp, you're usually ready to go right away, and people with incandescent systems dunk the hot light bulb and light bulb housing in the cool lake water. You create issues. The bulb probably immediately fry itself, and now you put nice cool water on hot metal with some minerals and salts and etc. on it, and that system's not going to last too long. When we were doing saltwater boating, I think we could get a year or 2 out of a set of lights and housings before we were back here working on them on a nice afternoon. But with the LED bulbs, that's the LED housings is game changer a little bit. Has given us more longevity on these lighting systems. See if I can swing around inside and whether we can see these wing nuts are in here. There's one there and there's one up in here somewhere. Yeah, we love you guys, but I don't love you enough to dive under the trailer, see whether I got that shot or not. So this is the lighting system on our 1971 O'Day Day Sailor trailer for their boat named Cyan. Had the trailer for, I don't know, probably since the 1980s. And you've heard the term Theseus's ship or my grandfather's axe. This is our, grandfather's trailer that I believe the only original components on this trailer are the box frame, and fenders have been replaced a couple times, springs, axles, everything's been replaced, brackets, bunks, lights, housings, of course, and then I believe Captain Jack made this bracket so he could do his removable bracket system. It's got a new longer tongue because we're carrying a little boat where our launch geometry, we wanted a little bit longer tongue because we're using shallow ramps into shallow water, so if we could get it a little further back without dunking the tow vehicle was good. Everything's new up there, rollers, etc. So this is our grandfather's trailer. And then just for those of you that are day sailor folks, through the years we found it really good. We've got rollers down the center keel. You always want to put, if you've got a centerboard boat, you always want to put a roller or some kind of stop underneath the centerboard, so that if your fittings upstairs decide to turn loose while you're going down the road, your centerboard doesn't drop down and make a nice skid mark down the highway. One roller aft, and then we have the bunks on either side padded. Got 2x4 right now. We had 2x6 at one point. I like those a little better. They spread out the load a little more. Next time we're goofing around, once these bunks, staples start to come loose, or we see the wood going bad on a bunk, we'll probably swap those to 2x6. And we have these bunks set. If you're inside the boat, there's a seat that comes out and goes down, and where that fiberglass from the seat side of the seat is touching the inside of the bottom of the boat, you got double thickness of fiberglass there. So that's what we like to have our bunks sitting under, instead of one of the more hollow points on the hull underneath. Sailboats in general, light fiberglass sailboats, our trailer guy and us included, we prefer bunks over rollers. If you've got a big heavier cruiser sailboat with thick fiberglass, then you can probably get away with rollers and have it be a better launch experience for you. So we'll take a peek under here, get a little bit of surface corrosion going on the springs. Probably buy a can of cold galvanizing compound, spray that to slow that down. And one note about axles: once you see rust spot on an axle, especially a box axle like this, that most likely means it's time for a new axle, because the rust likes to form from the inside. So if you see something on the outside, you can assume that it is worse inside than outside, and that's not something you want to find out the whole truth about while you're going down the road at 70 miles an hour. So we hope y'all are having a good one. We're gonna play with probably with some changing over some registrations and plates from our latest move from the Gulf Coast, Florida, up to Virginia. So we need to got the new registrations, just need to get the numbers on, get the plate changed over, and we'll be ready to take her out on a nice late fall day or early spring. Hope y'all are having a good one.